Greetings. This is the Meditation Town Hall with Lama Surya. You are all welcome. And we have on the screen the dates for the in-person retreat, which is the last scheduled opportunity for you to do an in-person retreat with Lama Surya. So consider that, and we hope you can join us. As usual, we greatly appreciate any donations to the Dzogchen Foundation. And I know I'm looking forward to getting back to my old almost neighborhood up there in Connecticut, where the retreat will be. And with that, here's Lama Surya.
Thank you, Mel. Yes, please join us for our residential intensive Dzogchen meditation retreat in Connecticut the last week of October. Nice to see you all. Happy Sunday. It's a beautiful day here in New England, where I live in the Pilgrim state, or I should say the Puritan state of mind. How sweet it is. So let's have a moment of silence for all those suffering today at the hands of war and greed and bombing and pandemics in Gaza and Lebanon and Ukraine, so many places, not to mention the hurricanes in the southeast of our country, reaching all the way up to the Carolinas. Menla just told me even the mountains in the Carolinas, in Asheville, people are dying, people are flooded, people losing houses. I'm sure you're all aware of this. There's a lot of hardship and suffering going on in the world. And if we're lucky enough to be sitting here in our comfy place, in our Zoom space together, it's not something to take for granted. Or as Billy Crystal said in the Emmy Award show a few Sunday nights ago, it's so nice to be here and see you all. Then he thought about it. He said, it's so nice to be anywhere. Meaning alive and breathing and together, doing these beautiful things together and having the opportunity. Life is tenuous and fleeting after all. And I'm just looking around the room. None of us are getting any younger. It's a Buddhist teaching. Unique to Buddhism. So a moment of silence and solidarity and feeling with others, empathizing, sympathizing, compassionating, settling, clearing our hearts and minds, settling our energy, bodies, and nourishing our souls, spirits, whatever we call it, including all in our prayers and sterling aspirations and spiritual practices today for a better world and better future to be possible, a future that begins right now. Shanti, peace, harmony, acceptance, tolerance, inclusive. Prayer is a big part of the spiritual life. Some people might think Buddhism doesn't have prayers for whatever reason. You can ask your questions. But if you go to the old world, if you're a Buddhist in the natural habitat, there's a lot of praying and bowing and sitting, going down. There's really only one or two books on prayer by Buddhist teachers, for some reason, in English at least. Check out Thich Nhat Hanh's little book called Prayer. Anyway, chanting and prayer and bodhicitta aspirations, the bodhisattva vow for universal enlightenment, not just for self-improvement, is a big part of our lineage, our tradition, and our way. Going from me to we, from I to thou, not just seeing other people and things as objects, but I, thou, together. Mutual reciprocity makes the sacred third, the we, the we-ness. And how much do we long for that, need that today in our strife-ridden, tumultuous partisanship times. Prayer isn't just about asking Santa Claus for what you think you want when you're 5 years old. You still believe in that. There's also Christian centering prayer, as Father Thomas Keating calls it in his classic book on the subject, Christian centering prayer. A wakefulness in the presence of God, not asking for anything. It's kind of like Dzogchen meditation, just being, and being in the presence with a capital P, whatever you call it, presence of, you fill in the blank if you need to. May all beings be happy, peaceful, and liberated, as it says in Buddha's own Metta Sutra, spoken by Buddha. Is that not a prayer? When I asked Dujin Rinpoche once what a Buddhist prayed to, he said it's the self-resound of the Dharma nature or of reality, not asking for something. There's even a prayer called Kuntazampo's prayer, the primordial Buddha's prayer, or aspiration prayer, with a hyphen, aspiration prayer. I once asked my teacher, Tukupe Mwangel, who's still alive and lives in France, my beloved mentor, Tukupe Mwangel, I've known since 1972, about prayer, about Kuntazampo's prayer that we used to chant every day in our 3-year retreats. You can look it up online. You can see the translations. Kuntazampo's prayer, Kunzam Winlam, Samanta Bhadra's prayer, aspiration, whatever it's translated as. Who does the primordial Buddha pray to? And he said, it's like breathing. It's the primordial Buddha's breath or intentionality. Not asking, but aspire, like intending, well-wishing. Very interesting. Like the sound of nature, if you want to put a quote face on it. When I have some trouble, when I don't know what to do, sometimes I just put my head down, perhaps in front of a higher power or Guru Rinpoche or my altar, or just put my head down and not know and not ask and just let go of everything and see what comes. I'm going to leave it to your imagination and see what comes, if anything. In wordless, centerless openness, surrender, releasing, mystical prayer. The word prayer in Tibetan is munlam, aspiration prayer, partly a feeling of making it happen. Like a vow, I hesitate to say a New Year's resolution. I heard some late night comedian asking some other one what kind of New Year's resolutions he made. It must have been, around New Year's. And the other guy hesitated, and then I think it was Conan O'Brien. He said, "Do you make New Year's resolutions?" And the other guy said, "Yes." Then Conan said, "Do you keep them?" And the other guy didn't want to answer. And we all know why. So, aspiration prayer, wishing, doling up intention, motivation, aspiration, considering what direction we might want to go. The higher ground or the lower ground, as people might call it. Aspiration prayer. Everything depends on motivation and intention, as the Dalai Lama always says, quoting the Peace Master, Shantideva. So I love these prayers, and I find chanting is a big part of my practice, but I grew up spiritually in Asia in my 20s and 30s. Maybe if you live in America, if you're used to more secular meditation or spirituality, I don't know if you go to yoga centers, if there's chanting or you just hear Krishna Das chanting on a audio machine of some kind while you're doing your yoga. It nourishes the soul. It feeds and opens the heart. Of course, no one kind of practice is for everybody. But chant, prayer, sacred music, kirtan, bhajan, davening, as we used to do in synagogue, Gregorian chants, so many ways for the spirit to sing, to awaken the spirit together also. So, of course, in Tibetan Buddhism, if you practice it, if you study it, there's a lot of prayers and chants and prayers, some in English. Of course, in Tibetan Buddhism, they're all in Tibetan Sanskrit, mantras, prayers, but some are well translated into English. Longevity prayers, healing prayers, prayers to Guru Rinpoche, the embodiment of enlightenment in this world. Padmasambhava, the Lotus Guru, or one's own teacher, guru, lineage. Prayer sometimes is like asking for help. And those of you who might be aware of having a hard time asking for help, you could see the virtue if you start to learn about asking for help. It takes a little of humility, of surrender. That kind of prayer also interesting. But do we really know what kind of help we need? Or we just trying to get our desires gratified or satisfied? That's the question. So there's also some not knowing or surrendering involved. Anyway, it's a great topic. You can read about it. Even better, you can practice prayers, whatever prayers you like. Those who know me know that somehow the only thing I remember really from my days of Hebrew school and bar mitzvahs is the chants. I always liked chanting. Nobody encouraged that, so I didn't even know I liked it. But I still remember the chants somehow. Not much else about who begat who and the rest. Sacred music, shabd, sacred sound vibrates in your chakras and channels. It's not just about auditory vibrations. Subtle energy vibrating in chakras and channels in different ways, having different effects. Could be very useful. Purification prayers and chants. Wisdom prayers and chants like the Gate mantra, beyond, and chanting that till you kind of beyond chanting, beyond thinking, beyond meditating, beyond yourself. Then sense who or what is present. As we say, praying in a way where there's no one praying and no one being prayed to or asked for. That's a real holistic, totality, cosmic, mystical prayer. Or bowing as if there's nothing to bow to and no one bowing. That's the real bow. Anyway, if you read Buddhist stuff, you read about these things in the Zen literature, in all Buddhist literature, in the non-dual Vedanta literature, and in mystical Western religions also. On the subject of prayer, the Sufi poet Jalaluddin Rumi, one of the most popular poets in America today, well translated by Coleman Barks, one of the best-selling poets in America today, even though he lived about 600 or 700 years ago in Persia, let's call it. Rumi said in one of his songs, in one of his poems, in one of his prayerful songs, utterances of joy, he says, For years I've been knocking on your door, O beloved. He's talking about the Lord, the beloved Lord. He always calls it the beloved because for him it's a love affair of the heart. For years I've been knocking on your door, only to find out I've been knocking from inside. Comment, inside the door. Thank you. So there's a lot that could be said and a lot of levels to this. I even know prayers by heart that I sometimes say, like St. Francis's peace prayer. Oh Lord, make me an instrument of your peace, and all the rest. Or the 23rd Psalm. The Lord is my shepherd. I shall not want. If you're not a God person, you ought to know everybody in India calls the Buddha Bhagavan Buddha. It means Lord Buddha. So you can fill that in wherever you see Lord. Oh Lord Buddha, make me an instrument of your peace. Oh Lord Buddha, bless me that I shall not want. Is that not the essence of letting go of attachments and desires and of gratitude and contentment? So there's a lot that could be said about this subject. I'm not going to warble on. This is a meditation time. I want to get down to the practice, the experience. But maybe we could begin with a little prayer. Mel, can you put a prayer on the board? One of the good prayers at the beginning of our prayer book, the Bodhicitta prayer, or, one of those, please. Thank you. In Buddha Dharma and the Supreme Spiritual Community, the Sangha, please join in if you wish. We go for refuge, for solace, until totally enlightened. By the power of all the 6 paramitas, the 6 transcendental virtues, from generosity up to non-dual gnosis, for the sake of all beings, may we realize awakening, Buddhahood. That's the Bodhisattva vow, the Bodhicitta aspiration right there. To be an enlightener, an awakener, a compassionator, a spiritual hero. Trungpa Rinpoche called it spiritual warrior. That's a little warlike for me, but it takes heroic courage to overcome our own limits and obscurations and illusions. Dostoevsky said, life is like a battlefield. Be kind to everyone. So be kind to everyone. I like that. We are the place where Buddha shines through. Buddha and we are one, not two. Buddha needs us where and as we am. We need not think or fear nor plan. When we can be relaxed, open, joyful and free, Buddha work the great plan of loving awareness through we. May it be so. From your mouth to Buddha's ear, his third ear. How sweet it is, as Buddha used to say, or someone. To have arrived at last, here and now. As always, just sitting, just breathing, just being aware of the three inner meditators' jewels: natural body, natural breath and energy, and third, natural heart mind, natural awareness. Just sitting, just breathing, just being, the three kayas. Presencing, awareing, not aware of the breath in a dualistic fashion. I am watching the breath and trying to concentrate and stay with it and not get distracted from it. That's fine. But now we're starting at the top and swooping down from above, just being with a capital B plus, as we already are. It's very hard to be, trying to be, when we already are, the ends, the essence, the beingness, what do we call it? The Buddha nature, the divine, the inner light, luminosity, what can we call it? In the beginning was the Logos, and that's now. Without that, nothing else, as it says in the beginning of Genesis, I think. In the beginning is the Om, without that, nothing. And that beginning is now. This moment, only moment, just being. This breath, only breath. Life. Inspiration, expiration. Let go of the idea you're doing it. Are you really breathing yourself? Try to stop. See who's in charge. And let go. Just breathing. Just being. Just sitting. Relaxed, attentive, at ease, on the spot, on the dot. So many ways of saying it. Natural body is Buddha body, Nirmanakaya, dig it. Natural breath and energy is Buddha's breath and energy, the great Tao, the flow, Crockett. Natural heart mind is Buddha mind, cosmic mind, God's mind, the Dharmakaya, Imaho, miraculous, here and now. Don't overlook it. Nowness awareness, the authentic Buddha within, as the Rinpoche sang. Watch the breath, observe the breathing. If you need an anchor to present awareness, otherwise just awareful, mindful, attentive, present rather than absent-minded, mindful rather than mindlessly sleepwalking through life, having all kinds of accidents, so-called, from heedlessness. The three naturals, rely on that. Yogis, refuge, natural body, natural breath and energy, natural heart mind. Pure spirit, just being with a capital B plus. Present awareness with a capital A plus. Imaho. Marvelous, wondrous, miraculous. Eureka. Hallelujah. Amen. Enjoy the joy of nowness meditation. Dzogchen. Natural great connection. The innate great completeness. Dzogchen Chenpo. You are Dzogchen Chenpo. Look it up. I am Dzogchen Chenpo. It's all Dzogchen Chenpo. Yes. 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 Thank you. open to whatever arises and seems to appear, aware, lucidly, incandescently present. That's Mahamudra and Dzogchen. Non-meditation, unmeditation, undoing the habit of overdoing, seeing through all momentary, dreamlike, ownerless phenomena and noumena, mind stuff. Enjoying the show. Wow. It's the best show, the only show in town. Lord, perceptions and projections, inner and outer. With one taste, equanimity and delight. Appreciating everything just as it is. Beyond attachment, attraction, or aversion. Imaho. Way to go, friends. Way to go. Yes. Being no one, going nowhere. Food away. Nothing less than everything. Yes. Focus on the exhalation, the out breath. If you need an anchor to present awareness, of course, you're allowed to breathe in also. Breathing is a very important, unique Buddhist practice. Don't leave home without it. Focus a little more on the out breath with the principle of releasing, relaxing, opening, relinquishing, even a little death with each out breath and a little rebirth with each inhalation, each moment. A new world, why not? You could start now. Spiritual rebirth, even without dying. Reinvent yourself, spiritual rebirth, whatever you call it. Otherwise, just resting aware and awareness itself, awareness, aware of awareness, a non-dual or uncompartmentalized lucidity, luminosity, wholeness and completeness, totality, the great connection, Dzogchen, natural, great, perfection. Nirvana, in things left just as they are. Great peace in things just left just as they are. If the mind wanders, as it does, gently use the leash of your mindfulness to bring it back to just sitting, just breathing, just being here now. especially focusing more on the out breath and releasing, opening, letting go, letting be, flow, not stasis, flow. Open to whatever arises next, not controlling. You make you think of yourself as a partisan of some religion or something, but I think the most popular, largest religion in the world is control freakism. Just for balance, this is an exercise in letting go, not throwing away or suppressing. Letting go means letting things come and go, letting be. That's the secret of equanimity, of non-attachment, of actualizing the inherent freedom of mind. Letting go, letting be. Imho, way to go. Thank ye. Close your eyes now. Rest in the brilliant, dark shadows and nothing but light. There's no such thing as darkness, only light and more or less light. Gaze into the light. Breathe out into the dark light, the inner light. Breathe in out of the dark light. Gaze into the light. Become the light. Be light. Go lightly in this world. Imo. Flow with the go, the great Tao, the cosmic flow. Just like breathing. Don't fall into the illusion you're doing it or in charge. And yet we could all use a little course correction now and then. From within or from without. Oh, way to go. The middle way, not all or nothing, not always or never. Balance. The middle way. Oh, way to go. Thank you. Love you. Love is the way, the truth, and the light, the life. Love doesn't just come from outside. Love comes through loving. That's our part. And mutual reciprocity. Resonating together. True communication. Living to love and loving life in all its forms, respecting, protecting, and cherishing it, and cherishing ourselves too, not our egos, but our beautiful best selves. Yes, live to love, as the Gelwin group of Lama says. Om Mani Padme Hum. 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 Mel, could we mantra see? Om Mani Padme Hum. Om Mani Padme Hum. Om Mani Padme Hum. Om Mani Padme Hum. Thank you. Number 3, if it rhymes, it's Dharma. Om Mani Padme Hum. Om Mani Padme Hum. Om Mani Padme Hum. May all beings everywhere be happy, content, fulfilled. Om Mani Padme Hum. Om Mani Padme Hum. Om Mani Padme Hum. Om Mami pray me home. Om Mami pray me home. Om Mani Padme Hum. 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 May all beings be happy, liberated, and free. Om Mani Padme Hum. Om Mani Padme Hum. Om Mani Padme Hum. Om Mani Padme Hum, including me and we and thee. Om Mani Padme Hum. Om Mani Padme Hum. Om Mani Padme Hum. Peace and harmony, please. Om Mani Padme Hum. 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 Purifying oneself, purifying all, transforming oneself, transforming the world. Om Mani Padme Hum. Om Mani Padme Hum. Om Mani Padme Hum. Om Mani Padme Hum. Happy Yogi. Om Mani Padme Hum. Om Mani Padme Hum. Om Mani Padme Hum. Joy to the world. Om Mani Padme Hum. 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 The needle seems to be stuck in the groove of the record. Om Mani Padme Hum. 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 Homage to Chenrezi, unconditional love and compassion. Om Mani Padme Hum. Om Mani Padme Hum. Om Mani Padme Hum. Om Mani Padme Hum. How sweet it is. The joy of awakening, not the chore of spiritual penance. Just getting together like this in the spirit, isn't it enough now? Mel, could we see the Millennium Prayer in that page, please, in the Dzogchen Center prayer book? We've been chanting the loving kindness mantra, compassion mantra, Mani Padme Hum, the jewel in the lotus mantra, loving kindness, the compassion practice. It's kind of like a prayer. In Buddhism, we use the word cultivation more. It's cultivating loving kindness and compassion, not praying to get it from somewhere. Bhavana, cultivation. Sati bhavana, cultivating mindfulness and insight. Metta bhavana, cultivating loving kindness and compassion, etc. May all beings everywhere with whom we are inseparably interconnected and who want and need the same as we do, May all be awakened, liberated, healed, fulfilled, safe, and free, not to mention sane and healthy. May there be peace and harmony in this benighted world, and an end to war and violence, poverty and hunger, inequality and oppression, greed and cruelty. And may we all together complete the spiritual journey. One beloved community, one Sangha, one circle, one family, one Samaya, one mandala, one beloved community, all the way home. And I bow to the Buddha, the light, whatever you call them, in your seat. Don't overlook it. Or should I say, don't overlook them? I know people have questions these days more than ever, it seems. I was at a dinner party last night. Dinner party. There were all of 5 of us at somebody's house. Heavy soup and salad and pumpkin pie from the farmer's market. And one of our, overeducated Cambridge friends said he had been reading this book, Why Is There Anything Rather Than Nothing? By Bill Holt. If you like to look up and read those things, it's a brilliant book. And I thought, really? Is that the question? To be or not to be? Is that a question today? Is there not more nuanced thinking than binary thinking or dualistic thinking or all or nothing thinking, either or? What about both and? What about other ways of intuiting, not just conceptual thought and rational analysis? Anyway, there's an election year. Whether or not they're independent candidates, we seem to have, a very binary or partisan choice. Let's get out the vote. Let's do what we can for a better world. Obviously, I believe in this, what we're doing. I found when I become clearer, everything becomes clearer. The world's a better place for it. Just like if I'm mindful and attentive at the steering wheel of my car, it's better for everyone in the car and around, animals, humans, pedestrians, etc. It's not like we can't do anything or we're helpless or our vote doesn't count or our actions don't count. Even the smallest action or intention can have large ramifications. As the Peace Master Shanti Deva said in Chapter 4 of How to Be a Bodhisattva about the patience, paramita, the Panacean virtue of patient forbearance. Like a spark can burn down 1,000-year growth or grove or mountainside of trees. A spark of anger can change or ruin your whole life with others. He's talking about violence, of course, not a momentary feeling. So this practice has a lot of ramifications, outer, inner, and subtlest. Of course, there are other things that we could do, and we must do every day, just like brushing our teeth or other things. Be in the world, but not entirely of it, but still be in the world since we're here and embodied, and we care about somebody or something, if not ourselves, our loved ones, or our pets, or something, or the environment. So any questions or sharing, please?
Yes, yes, Lama, we have one from Ben. He says, sometimes I read a few pages from Longchenpa's Trilogy of Rest. And I have trouble reconciling the difference between his mind and mine. His mind and attainment compared to my own. It makes me feel both inspired and hopeless in a way. It seems that there is a gap of 1 trillion miles between he and I do realize that I shouldn't compare myself to a being of that caliber. But we are both humans with Buddha nature. Do I just accept my lot and try for the best?
Yes, of course. What else can you do? Although I'm not talking about blind acceptance. We're still on a path. We're making efforts. We're learning. We're growing. We're trying to refine our way. And yet acceptance has its own transformative magic, Ben. I've said it so many times. A little acceptance can go a long way towards transforming your whole marital relation or other kinds of relations, rather than just trying to change the mate or whatever other example you want to use. But let's talk about the black and white or the kind of caricature between Longchenpa and my mind and the 1 trillion miles. We might be able to practice or cultivate sharp, moment-to-moment, keen, brilliant, seeing through awareness, and see through the illusion of separateness. There's no 1 trillion miles. Maybe Longchenpa didn't even live. Who knows? But what is the Buddha nature? You yourself said, oh, I guess I have it. Should I just accept it? Sure. Why don't you accept that Jesus died for your sins and then you're saved? But it's not that simple for most of us. I don't know if it's that simple for anyone, but people talk like that. That's fine. I hope it's, the truth. In our teachings, in our tradition, in the Dzogchen Tantras, in Buddhism in general, Buddha said we all have Buddha nature, the luminous potential for enlightenment, as well as the active, like the acorn contains the tree. Add a little time and you find out, and other conditions. And the tree also has acorns. So what came first, the acorn or the egg, as they say? What came first, the chicken or the egg? Maybe it's not either or, maybe it's not black and white, maybe it's not exactly in linear time. Maybe they co-arose. It's hard to understand. But science is still batting its head against the wall, trying to understand how life originated. These are not small matters we're talking about. So Longchenpa was probably the greatest Dzogchen master. He lived, 700 years ago in Tibet. He left us 250 texts or books or whatever they were called in those days, whatever form they took before the printing presses. But if you're reading those things, there's a lot of very high, transcendental, powerful, profound, high, mystical teachings. And that's inspiring, but it's also seems beyond us. So, we call it swooping down from above with the bigger picture while climbing up the spiritual mountain or path or whatever metaphor you use from below through relative practices. Attitude transformation, mind training, ethic and morality and generosity and all the cardinal virtues of Buddhism, the 6 paramitas, transcendental virtues. I'm not a big fan of telling too many stories about the enlightened ones and their miracles and this or that. How Milarepa lived in a cave above the snow line, just wearing white Indian cotton clothes, practicing the inner heat of mystic luminosity. How are we supposed to do that? How's that going to help us? Maybe we need to just practice some breathing and some yoga and some attitude transformation and some good deeds and live a beautiful and sane life and share it with others. So there's a lot of parts of the path. It doesn't have to be complicated, but it's the Eightfold Path. It's not just one thing, mindfulness. There's 8 steps, 8 folds, 8 branches of the Buddhist path. or at least divided into three: ethical, morality, contemplative awareness practice or meditation, and third, wisdom and love, the three higher trainings that the Eightfold Path breaks out as. So I too could, even last night at dinner, I was saying it's very daunting to think about, these high questions and what people have said about it through history. That's why we practice being here now. Just breathing, just sitting, just being. It could be that simple. And let go a lot of this, unless you're a graduate student or a professor and you're getting paid to think on these things, write about it, and comment on it. Trungpa Rinpoche, the great Buddhist pioneer, said, all this talk and thinking is like dancing on books. Why do that? Unless you're getting paid for it. What are you getting out of it? Dancing on books. That's not what books are for. If a dog sees the best book in the world on the ground and next to it is a tiny piece of I don't know what, some smelly, disgusting, rotten, I don't know what, the dog's going to go for the smelly, tasty treat every time. What about us? What's really calling us? Is it Longchenpa's 7 gigantic treasuries, the blue books in English? I'm looking around. Or his 250 books about Buddhist philosophy? Or his Dzogchen meditation of seeing through, of being through, that we can practice, that we can experience. So that's where I fall, having studied Buddhism, and it's hard to believe how many decades, since 1970 or 71. Not just studied, I've been meditating since 1971 when I learned how. I tried to learn in college in the late 60s, but I couldn't stick to it. But after I did a 10-day insight and loving kindness retreat in Goenkaji in India, 10 intensive silent days in a monastery environment, real training, and I learned how to meditate. I got over the hump. It's hard to do that by going one night a week to a Dharma center or reading in a book how to practice breath counting. And also the Sangha support of being with others on the path. So try to keep it simple. Don't get into comparing yourself to Long Papa, our lineage patriarch, or to Dalai Lama, or to anybody. Certainly not to me. Or even while you're sitting there in the group and, Ben, you've been in group meditations, you're sitting there. In the beginning, you're just happy to be there, and it's peaceful, and it's simple, and it's silent, and the bell rings, and you just salivate. You just go on to the next activity. You don't have to do anything or worry about anything, and there's meals and everything else provided. But life isn't that simple when we're in our hurly-burly lay life outside the monastery or the silent, intensive retreat situation, training retreat. So the unexpected, we have to be resilient and attentive and be open to what's next and ready to deal with it. Dance with life, not just dance on books. Dance with life, like swimming. When you know how to swim, you can jump in the water and swim no matter what the waves are doing. There are different strokes. There are different ways. Of course, you don't jump into a tidal wave or tsunami, but those are the extremes. In general, you can deal with whatever the water's doing when you know how to swim. Similarly, when you know how to be and be on the path and live a spiritual life. So don't compare. When you're sitting in the meditation hall, in the beginning, you're happy. It's like the honeymoon phase. It's peaceful. You don't have to do anything else that day. And then you look around and the other people are sitting there also peaceful and happy. Then you start to get bored or restless or your knee hurts or itchy. And you look around and the other people, some of them anyway, are sitting there like living Buddhas. And you imagine they're like so peaceful and you don't feel good, but they feel good. You look in the front of the room and whoever's sitting there looks like a living Buddha who doesn't have a care in the world and probably even doesn't have any thoughts and can just sit there for 24 hours without moving. These are all projections and illusions. The people you're comparing yourself to probably have almost what same going on as you do inside. So some teachers call it comparing mind. Don't give in to comparing. Spiritual practice is intimate, is personal, involves you, not the other people at the moment that you're doing this kind of, meditation practice. Now, of course, there's also group practice, family practice, nature practice, and other things, relational mindfulness, whatever you call it. But while you're cultivating awareness, that's about awareness and awareness and awareness, not about what other people are doing, even if they're sneezing, or even if they're sitting there looking like Buddha. You can be sure they also have the infinite popcorn machine going on inside. So I can see my mind and thoughts and feelings and, appearances, arisings, whatever you call them, the continuum of consciousness. It's like a popcorn machine, but I learned I don't have to salt it and butter it up. And if you let it go long enough, it runs down, it gets more calm. There's no such thing as the eternal motion machine or energy machine. Science is looking for that too for centuries, like looking for the origins of life. If you don't feed the machinery, it runs down. One of Shikempo's great poems, and he's the one that sang, "You are Dzogchen, and we are Dzogchen, and everything is Dzogchen." Shikempo, one of his great poems, short poem, or maybe it's a verse, shloka verse from one of his spontaneous songs of enlightenment, says something like, "The waves of samsara never stop until you stop stirring and shaking." It doesn't even say it, until you stop stirring and shaking, meaning your mind, which is challenging. Doesn't mean you have to stop your mind, but you could calm down a little, slow down with the stimulants, the nicotine, the sugar, the caffeine, not to mention other things, the 10 hours a day watching screens. It used to be the boob tube. Now it's the screens everywhere for boobs or us. Everywhere. Every moment. Unbelievable. It's about awareness of what's coming up, not stopping your mind from thinking or feeling and numbing out. So don't give in to comparing, Ben. And also, if you practice some devotional practices, that might help transport you beyond your conceptual mind and comparing. If you practice some chanting or breathing and yoga, I know you like yoga, you're a yoga teacher, that might help. Smooth things out in the energy field, not just in the thought machine. Good question. Don't over-idealize, might be, in short, about enlightenment or about masters or about others. Or don't over-idealize about yourself, how you should be. Or even worse, inverse egotism, how you're worse than anybody. That's equally illusory. Any other questions, please?
Well, thank you, Lama. I think my transcendental values tell me that it's time to transcend to the boob tube, and for most of us.
Goodbye. Now I have to look and see what my messages are.
May we all get good messages.
I used to come home in the old days, meaning decades ago, and write down something I'd been thinking about on the way home, or I don't know what. Then there was a phase of the answering machines. Anybody remember? The light would be blinking. What was the first thing you did when you got home? Forget about what you were thinking about or going to do when you got home. Check the messages and get diverted into a few dozen of those, or at least one of them. And now I don't even know what to say in our unsociable media days. Thank you, Mel, for doing the tech, and Menla and all of you for organizing this. And it's nice to see you all. I love you. I'm not going to mention your names. I see you. I read your names. I watch you. I see you. I be you. What does it say in Avatar? I see you.